Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seattle Across the Pond, a Seattle sports podcast where we talk about the important things that are happening in Seattle sports. My name is Ankit and Eric, and as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Eric Imperio. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. There are dogs barking.
They're having a good time.
So yeah, there are dogs barking. It's a good time, but it's doing well. It is, ladies and gentlemen, officially the final episode of this podcast where I am recording whilst in India. Eric, do you want to take a gander on the temperature right now? For context, ladies and gentlemen,
Gander.
it is 12:45 at night.
Wait, let me first take a guess. I'm going to say
Take a guess,
it's
and then I'll give you the answer.
110
at 12:45 at night.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going with crazy.
You're not completely off. It's 100.
10 degrees, I don't know. That is 5 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Not terrible.
Yeah, you're doing well. Cool. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this week, so usually we do record every 2 weeks. However, due to hold on. I'm gonna track, and then we'll do this in the news in the locker room area. All right, cool. Well, lovely. We have a lot to talk about this week that is not weather related, so we should jump into that. Before we can jump into that, we got to head over to the locker room, get ready, so that we're prepared for whatever silliness we have prepared for this week. So, wonderful, Eric. Welcome. Is there anything going on? Anything that you need to tell the people what's going on?
I'm slowing it down, taking care of things at home here, just getting housework done.
Fair enough.
Just a slower time.
It's important stuff. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, just normally we record every other week. However, due to scheduling, we are recording this a week early, so we will have significantly less news than normal in terms of what is going on in Seattle sports. It might be a little outdated. We apologize for that. But if you come back at the next episode, we promise to catch you up on anything we may have missed in between recording the episode and releasing the episode. So don't worry, we'll still cover it if something big happens. But just so that you are all aware that we're just recording early to match our schedules. But yeah, Eric, if people want to find us on social media, you're doing some fun things over there. Where can they do that? How can they find us?
They can find us on SATP Sports on Instagram, and they can find all of our sister channels with
Co-op Forge, which is CO_OPFORGE. You can find Post Finale Pod and Flip the Scripts, which are both shows that we do as well. Post Finale is me watching films for the very first time. As this episode comes out, we should just be finishing up Braveheart. We should be in the last couple episodes of going through Braveheart. And after that, we have a fun summer blockbuster coming up. And over on Flip the Scripts, we are still currently working our way through the Avatar: The Last Airbender Netflix series. Oh boy, it's a doozy, and we have a lot of thoughts. So be sure to check those out. Those can be found on our YouTube channel, which is Co-op Forge. And if you want to, you can find those shows, Post Finale and Flip the Scripts, on whatever podcast platform you use to listen to podcasts. I think that is pretty much... Oh, that's true. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to sign up for our Patreon, get access to bonus content where Eric and I talk a bit more in depth on some sports things that are going on, give more things like that. You can get access to our notes for everything that we're going to be talking about, different things like that. You can do so at patreon.com/coopforge, and that's CO_OPFORGE. And you don't only get access to content from Seattle Across the Pond, you also get content from Post Finale and Flip the Scripts. All the money goes directly back into the shows, and we thank everyone that does do that. If you can't, that's completely fine. Just thank you for listening. It means the world to us. Tell a friend about the show. They don't need to necessarily know a lot about sports, because let's be honest, I am confused most of the time if we're talking about actual sports. So, like, come join the fun. We're going to be talking about fun, different things. We don't really focus that much on the wins and the losses anymore. So be sure, tell a friend. It's all just going to be funs and silliness in sports, because there's a whole lot of that. But lovely. Eric, am I missing anything before we head over to silliness part 1?
I think we are all dressed in the locker room and ready to play ball.
Lovely. Well, let's play ball. Now, Eric, I have a question for you.
Yes.
As we begin to play ball. Have you heard of the Seattle Pilots?
I have heard of the Seattle Pilots.
How much do you know about the Seattle Pilots?
I know that they are now the Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay, well done. That's more than I knew when I looked this up. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I decided to do a little bit of a deep dive, have some history, and, see what has happened in the world of Seattle sports. Now, we are going to be talking about the Seattle Pilots. They are not to be confused with the Portland Pilots, which is the mascot and the name of the school that Eric and I went to. Different team completely. So,
are they the same type
Seattle,
of pilot?
I don't know. I couldn't tell. But I would be fascinated if they're also riverboat pilots.
I hope they're not.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Seattle Pilots were a professional baseball team for one season in Seattle. Now, a little bit of background before we get to the Seattle Pilots. Professional baseball originally arrived in Seattle in 1890, and the team was called the Seattles. Fantastic. Lovely team name.
Yeah.
Ingenuity 100%.
They still have that with like the Rainiers. Like if you break it down, Tacoma's named after the same mountain as Mount Rainier, just in a different language. So they're literally just like the Rainiers. So
yeah, but at least it's not just called the Seattles. It's not like the name is Tacomas. At least there's a different language.
Okay.
Now, Depression ended that team in 1892, but not before the city earned its first pennant. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Depression. It was just the depression that they got when they had to call their team the Seattles. So, multiple other iterations of baseball teams came and went in Seattle. The most famous and the most prominent was the Seattle Rainiers, which was the minor league team up until 1967. And then they disbanded. Eventually, they got brought back. As you were mentioning, now they're the Tacoma Rainiers. So, it all still exists. It's all still there. But they were the most prominent team. Now, the Seattle Pilots joined the American League in 1969. But then by the next opening day, they were the Milwaukee Brewers. And oh boy, did some hijinks occur in the whole situation. So there is a fantastic site, ladies and gentlemen, that I did most of my research on. I did a little bit of other research, but thank you. Shout out to the site, literally seattlepilots.com. Shout out to you, because you helped streamline the story here. So many people wonder, all right, what actually went into the Pilots, disbanding and being moved to Milwaukee? A lot of people point to low attendance as the most common reason. However, this is not true, because in the 1969 season, they had a total of 677,944 attendees to games, which equal more attendees than the White Sox, the Indians, the Pirates, and the Padres.
Wow. So not low attendance causing them to leave.
Yeah, so it wasn't just low attendance, right?
Okay.
And in fact, the Brewers' attendance slipped below this number just two seasons after the team shifted back. So yeah, give us 2 baseball teams. Actually, can we change the Milwaukee Brewers, bring them back, and make them an NBA team, and make them the Supersonics?
We'll leave all of the players.
Yeah, no, they just have to change their sport. Of course.
Sorry, you're changing
It would be
sport.
stupid not to. Yeah. No, you make the players change the sport, not the other way around. No. Those people don't deserve to lose their job just because we're bringing them back.
No, that's no. They should keep their jobs. No. We're still going to pay you just as much. Contracts stay the same. You're just playing basketball now.
Yeah. Please win games. So the next reason is that, you know, if this situation actually occurred, what would be happening? They would be losing money. Kind of true, but it was mainly on paper. After all the math was done and everything, the Pilots only lost about $250,000, which, to be honest, in terms of like a brand new professional sports league, not a lot. Or not league, franchise. Not a lot.
Yeah. You lose.
Like, even if you want to account for inflation, I don't know what the inflation is, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't look it up. I probably should have. But, you know, even if you account for inflation, even if you want to go upwards to $2 million, it's not a lot in the first year, comparatively. So let's learn a little about the people that we're dealing with in this whole situation, shall we? So our first step is Dewey and Max Soriano, who, you know, were awarded an American League franchise in the winter of 1967 with the condition that King County, which for anyone that might be listening and is not familiar with the Seattle area, most of Seattle and the big cities around Seattle and the suburbs is King County, and it is the largest county in Washington in terms of population. It might not be in terms of size anymore, I don't remember, but in terms of population, it's the biggest one. So, yeah, that's King County. But they would have had to build a domed stadium within 3 years. Fantastic. And in 1968, construction was approved. So, no issues there. Now, Dewey Soriano and Max Soriano, they were brothers, and they seemed like ideal people to run a team because Dewey had 20 years of experience as a pitcher and a general manager for the Seattle Rainiers and the Yakima Bears, and was the president of the Pacific Coast League for a while as well. Meanwhile, Max Soriano pitched for the UW Huskies and served as the Pacific Coast League's legal consultant while his brother was the president. So you know, on paper, very experienced people. Notice how I said, you know, on paper, because there is one crucial detail that makes them slightly less than ideal candidates. It's that they didn't have money. But They found a loophole, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. Don't you worry. The Soriano brothers are here to make this work. They found somebody. And they turned to a man named William R. Daley, who was the former owner of the Cleveland Indians. They are now regarded as the Cleveland Guardians, ladies and gentlemen, but this all happened in 1969 before the name change. So, Daley originally actually thought about moving the Indians to Seattle in 1965. However, Ohio made it worthwhile to stay. So, you know, Cleveland still has a baseball team. Sure. Don't really know what there is to do in Cleveland other than go watch sport.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you could go watch any of the number of sports teams they got.
I don't think they have a hockey team, do they?
I think they play in Columbus. I don't remember.
Fair enough. So...
I should remember.
You know, you should. You're the hockey person. I'm the confused person. This is what I bring to the table. So,
they do play in Columbus. Yeah.
Lovely. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're thinking wonderful, fantastic, owners love to splurge, you know, especially if you're looking at it now and, you know, any of the recent news that has happened, you know, the Dodgers just signed people to like, you know, 20,000-year deals or something. I don't even know, for like an exorbitant amount of money that's probably the same as a small country's gross domestic income, like product. I like, it's insane, right? Like, they are making an insane amount of money. They deserve it. They are extremely good at what they do, but it's bonkers. That being said, This is not the case for our Mr. Daly. And after the first few months, when it was clear that the pilots were going to, not turn a profit, and Daly was going to have to invest more to keep them afloat, he lost his love for Seattle and was like, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore.
Short love.
It started to rain, and the summer went away.
Oh.
Yeah.
That'll be rough. Yeah.
September hit. And in September, Daly was mad, because it started to rain.
Yeah.
And, Daly told the Seattle fans that they have 1 year to prove themselves or they're going to lose the team. He said this in a press conference.
Prove yourself.
Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, they have been proving themselves. They showed up to games. They were dedicated fans. They wanted to be there. They were rooting for the team. Secondly, when does the season start, Eric? April?
Yeah.
June, July, August. 6 months. He gave them 6 months. Actually, it's early September. He gave them 5 months.
Okay. Wait, so he does in the middle of the first season, like in September, he said?
Yeah. Season starts in April, early September. He says you have 1 year to prove yourselves or you're going to lose the team.
So 5 months next season, plus what's remaining.
I guess. This is how math works.
Okay.
I'm assuming he means until September next year.
Oh, yeah, right.
So, September of 1970.
Unless he just meant this year, just
the team
show up to every game.
Team didn't last that long, so I don't know. We will never know what Daly meant, right? So, now, there are many reasons that, this is assumed, like, why did Daly do this? Big speculated reason is that he had poor health. He did die 2 years later after long-term illness, but nothing was originally proven, and Daly didn't invest more, and the Sorianos, as good as they might have been in terms of, like, trying to build the team and, like, everything like that, they didn't have funds.
They can't bring anybody in to play.
That they already did. So, and here's the thing. The Sorianos weren't going to go down without a fight, right? So, Daly, gave the threat, and it had the opposite effect. People were just like, screw you, and attendance plummeted. And tensions between team officials and local politicians about funding doomed the stadium. However, the Sorianos, like I said, we're not going to go down without a fight. They are our knights in shining armor in this situation. They were like, no. We need to find someone who is willing to keep this team here because we know that Seattle deserves a baseball team. Also, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, at the time, and like even still to this day, Seattle's next closest competition in baseball is in California.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you're going east, it's Milwaukee.
Just direct east, yeah, Milwaukee.
If you're going east, it's Milwaukee, and you have to go down to San Francisco?
Right. I think
Sacramento doesn't have a team. I think the closest team is San Francisco Giants.
It's the Giants, then the second closest would be Oakland. And then the third closest
who are probably going to move
Denver
to Vegas
or LA.
Yeah, and like here's the thing: in '69, the A's did exist.
The A's existed, yeah. I know
the A's existed, yeah. So I think the Giants might not have existed. Maybe they existed, or maybe they came into fruition. I don't know the history of everyone.
I don't know Giants history.
I'm sorry. I just know that when I was younger, I was disappointed in terms of both of the teams that are named the Giants. For anyone that's wondering, it's also the New York Giants in American football. I was disappointed when I learned that they weren't actual giants, and they were just large men. But then I was more upset that the mascot wasn't a giant.
That makes sense. I would be more upset about first in football or baseball, if you're gonna be named the Giants, like baseball, you get 2 giants instead of like 9 players, right? 1 bats, 1 plays the field.
Yeah,
And
fair.
then football, just 1 giant. Like that would be if there was giants in those sports, like actual giants.
Right.
But then of
Obviously
course the
there
mascot
weren't
needs to be a
actual
giant.
giants. But
Right.
like, why is the mascot just a normal sized human?
Right.
Who's like, 6 foot? That's not a giant.
Like at least put
I've
5
seen
people
NBA players.
together.
At least put the man on stilts.
At least.
Put the person in the costume on stilts and make them do wacky things on stilts. People are skilled enough on stilts.
Yeah.
They exist. We've seen them. Giants. Both of you. Make your mascot an actual giant.
Get on it.
Not the same height as a tall man.
This will be affecting their rating when we decide to rate mascots across the country.
Oh yeah, we will definitely be doing that at some point, ladies and gentlemen. We will hit all the major sports throughout the show.
Yes.
We will hit the major sports. This will be affecting their rating, and spoiler alert, it will probably be low because they're not a giant. Anyway, our knights in shining armor, the Sorianos, they found someone, and they found a local theater chain owner, Fred Dans, and he agreed to buy the team. Oh my God, look at that. They're going to stay in Seattle. Fred Dans coming in, as that last-ditch effort. The cavalry has arrived. Slight problem. Christmas Day, 1969. Imagine, it's a lovely day. Fred Dans has just woken up. His children, I don't know, maybe he has children. I have no idea if he did or not. His children woke him up early saying, Dad, Santa's arrived. We need to go down and look at presents. And he heads down. And oh, look, the mail has arrived. Santa has delivered the presents. The kids get like a little fire truck engine to play with. Maybe a baseball mitt, because Dad's going to own the new baseball team. Fred, however, gets hit with a letter from the Bank of California demanding immediate payment in full of the $4 million that they had loaned him for the pilots for startup costs. And Dans couldn't come up with the additional $10 million he already raised, so the sale ended up being nullified.
What? No. No. What is with this bank?
California.
Hey, that loan we gave you for 30 years? We want it back. All of it.
Now.
Right now. But I already spent it. No, we want it back. What?
So, poor Fred. He just wanted to do something good for Seattle. He was already bringing live theater and happiness to the people in Seattle. He wanted to bring more. He understood that sports can have the same impact as live theater, bring people together, form communities. He wanted to do that. But he was told no by California.
No by Cali.
Now, the Sorianos. What do you think they did? Did they go down without a fight? No.
No.
They found someone else. Again, the Sorianos fought. They tried. They did what they could. And they found Westin Hotel's president, Eddie Carlson, and he put together a nonprofit group of people to buy the team. But then the American League owners voted against it.
Do they just hate Seattle? They're just done with Seattle. They're like, it's too much work.
They were just like, nah, we don't want to fly to Seattle. Sounds like a lot of effort.
It's too far.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, the Milwaukee Braves were a franchise. They had moved to Atlanta, becoming the Atlanta Braves a few years prior, and this had opened the doors for the Pilots in early September of 1969 to potentially move to Milwaukee. Now, the mayor of Seattle, he's another one. He's another knight in shining armor. He threatened to evict the Pilots. Backwards thinking, but hold on, I promise this has a good ending. So, Bud Selig, or Selig, I think it's Selig, so I'm going to say Selig. Ladies and gentlemen, if I'm mispronouncing this, please let me know in the comments. I apologize in advance. So Bud Selig flew to Seattle, and there was roughly a month of secret negotiations, after which a deal was struck during Game 1 of the 1969 World Series, where the Seattle Pilots would be sold to Bud Selig for $10.8 million US, and then the team would be moved to Milwaukee. Yeah. Apparently, there was also a Texas group interested, but Max Soriano is stated as saying that, we had a gentleman's agreement with Selig, and we chose to go with him. So, throughout all of it, the Sorianos tried, and then, maybe the Texas group was going to give them more money, but Sorianos were like, no, we've made a gentleman's agreement. We agree to these terms. It's not how we wanted this to happen, but we have agreed to it. We are going to honor our agreement. So again, no fault to the Sorianos. They are lovely people. They don't deserve any of the hate. They tried. They tried their best.
They tried.
Now, the vote officially was set on March 17th, 1970. At the same time, the state of Washington not going down without a fight. How dare you take our pilots from us? They got a temporary injunction to prevent the shift. However, also at the same time, because, why not? The Pacific Northwest Sports Incorporated, or the pilot's parent company, they filed for bankruptcy. Yeah, so they had no money. They were like, we done. We don't got funds. This is goodbye, tata. So spring training the next year. We are now in 1970, and spring training is wrapping up. And the truck drivers were told to take the pilot's equipment to Las Vegas and wait for a phone call.
Okay. Was spring training in Las Vegas back then?
No. It just, from what I could tell, spring training was still just somewhere down like Arizona, New Mexico, wherever it happens. Yeah, okay. And then they were just told to go to Vegas because I guess from Vegas, if you need to go to Seattle, you go up one highway, and if you need to go to Milwaukee, you go the other highway, and that's the last point of like it makes common sense to like stop. Would be my best guess.
Okay. I see.
Sure.
I see.
Yeah. So I have a quote here from the attorney, Judge Sidney Volin, who ruled that the pilots were indeed bankrupt and ordered the shift to Seattle. Or not to Seattle, to Milwaukee. And she says, I can still remember Orlo Kellogg, attorney for the Bank of California. And his argument was very brief. I think the sale price was $10 million US, and Orlo, in his final argument, wringing his hands, said, 10 million, Judge. Think of it. $10 million would pay everybody, including my client. And what do they have to offer? Only hopes.
I mean, it's sports. That's
most things that sports teams offer, buddy. Last I checked. Yeah, last I checked, the Seahawks aren't out here, sending me paychecks. They just occasionally bring me happiness and sadness. I don't tend to put a lot of hope into the teams anymore. At least for me, I'm not one of the people that, I'm overly upset if my team loses. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'd be like, that sucks. Damn it. Yeah. I wish they won. I would have been happier if they won. I could have gloated more. Now I'm going to just get made fun of by most of my friends. I'm going to have to endure this for a couple days. Like, this sucks.
That's part of the Seattle character. It's building character.
Yeah. So it's like, that's generally all that's happening, right? Like, lovely, fine, beautiful. So the drivers get a call. They're told, go to Milwaukee. It was so sudden that new uniforms weren't available. And instead, they just had the pilot's name and logo removed from the old uniforms and then just stitched the name Brewers on the new uniforms. But that is how the Seattle Pilots existed for one season. But that is not where our story ends, ladies and gentlemen. Because in 1970, the city of Seattle and King County sued the American League for $32 million in damages. There were proposals for the White Sox, the A's, the Giants, all to move to Seattle. Nothing came of any of these propositions, and trial started in 1976. The major question was pretty much if the American League was responsible for any loss suffered as a result of the Pilots' move, and if so, to what extent.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty normal. There's a court case. During 18 days of questioning, jurors heard testimonies from baseball owners, including A's owner Charlie Finley, who admitted that the American League did nothing to keep the Pilots in Seattle.
Well, yeah. and when you ask them to build you a baseball stadium, a dome, and they've already funded it, I can see you probably should try to help them keep a team.
Right? One would think. So the plaintiff, their co-counsel, Jerry McNall, keep this in mind, Jerry McNall said things were going well for us at trial. And a lot to our surprise, the American League made a proposal that they'll give us a franchise if we drop the suit. Then it was just a question of documenting the agreement. So then, remember Dwyer, who, was the mayor, and, earlier it didn't look like he was doing everything, but I promised that it had a good ending. So he said, hey, even though we didn't dismiss this case immediately, we provided in the agreement that the trial would be recessed and continued for a little over a year until the opening of the 1977 baseball season to make sure a team was out there in uniform playing baseball. So he was smart. He said, all right, we'll take your deal, but we're not going to officially drop it until the team starts playing. So that they couldn't negate it.
Right.
And that is how we now have the Seattle Mariners, who formed in 1977. And the main reason that we have the Seattle Mariners is because of a lawsuit and thanks to the legal work of Dwyer and McNall.
Way to go.
So I just thought this would be fun. Some fun facts in terms of the one season that the 1969 Seattle Pilots did play. They went 64-98. They were sixth in the AL's West Division. They tallied 639 runs and gave up 799 runs, the most in the league. Don Mincher, on the other hand, was on pace and hit 25 home runs and was the leading home run scorer. Well done, Don.
Way to go.
But yeah, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Seattle Pilots and how we now have the Seattle Mariners.
Awesome. Who are doing quite well this season.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. They're winning. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
This is a good story. I
said, it was an interesting one with a lot of different, unlikely heroes. I didn't think that it was going to end in us getting the Mariners as I was researching this.
No, I didn't think they were related. I just thought we still want a team, and they just put in bids.
Yeah, no, they are 100% related, and the main reason we have the Mariners is because of a lawsuit.
Okay.
There we go.
Way to go. So we're going to keep in the same era here, actually. I'm shocked. And there's actually even a reference to your team, your story,
wow.
Not your story, the team you just talked about in this.
Ladies and gentlemen, for context, we did not coordinate this at all. Eric just told me roughly which team he wanted to take a look at. So that gave me free reign to look at stories for any other team.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's 50 years of history for this team, so it's not like you could just know exactly which part I'm going to pick. Nor did I know which part I was going to pick.
Fair. All right, who are we talking about? What's going on?
We are talking about the Seattle Sounders. And for those who do not know, there is not one Seattle Sounders. There are 3 Seattle Sounders.
Huh?
Yeah. So for a little, we'll just take some context. We'll get this going. The Seattle Sounders officially first time start in 1974. They only last until the 83 season. After that season, they are done. They then come back as a new, what is called Phoenix team. I love it. Out of the fire and ashes comes a new team. That's not till like 1994, and they play until 2008. Now, yes. And in 2009, people might now know that the current MLS Sounders start playing. So what happened between 08
Yeah,
and
but
09?
wasn't that just the MLS formed?
No, the MLS formed in 1996.
Oh, never mind. I'm very wrong.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so why in 08 is there a Sounders team that dies, I guess you could say, and a Sounders team that forms in the same year? They just like voluntarily folded knowing they weren't going to survive an MLS team coming to Seattle. And so then when the MLS team had a chance to pick a name, they're like, I guess the Sounders is free now. Yeah. So
Did the players at least stay, or like did
some
the
of the
players
players actually went up to the Sounders as well. So it's like this like people consider it like just a promotion of sorts, but really what happened is the books were tied up, people were paid, they closed up shop because they're like, it's not going to happen.
fair?
And fair. I don't know how it would have went, but that's one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to be talking about the first incarnation of the Sounders.
Beautiful.
Yes. So 1974, they start up. They are introduced to the new league, the NASL, basically the MLS before the MLS existed. It still exists in a form. It is now called the USL. Yes, USL.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's its new form.
Why does the MLS and the USL not have relegation between the two?
Because they are different leagues. I think we covered this recently.
We covered this recently, but they're different leagues. But it's the same way that the Premier League and the Championship are different leagues.
I think we have different laws in the United States and England. I think it has to do with like anti like monopoly laws and stuff like that. I don't know.
I'm just saying, I'm tired of like occasionally tuning into an MLS game later in the season and being like, oh, these two teams are playing. Oh, they're playing for literally nothing. It's just meaningless games.
For meaningless draft position in a meaningless draft. Yes.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. At least if you're watching the NFL, you can be like, ooh, there's draft positioning and it's important, right? Like,
it's very important in the NFL,
and like,
yes.
oh, because of this trade, like this way, fantastic. NBA, I might get better odds if I actually lose. Like, you know, it still doesn't mean anything because the Pistons have had the best odds and like they've dropped like multiple times. Like, I feel bad for the Pistons, honestly. They haven't done anything that deserved this. But like in the MLS, the draft doesn't matter. I'm sorry to break it to you, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter.
It's just there's too much foreign competition for it to matter. Yes. Yeah, they need to just get rid of it and ignore it. Okay.
Anyway,
back on the rails a little bit here. So they started in 1974. I'm just giving context before I get to the story because I don't want to just drop the story and it'd be like, oh, okay,
sure.
Let's get some like emotion and like this team a little bit first. Okay. So the 1974 squad, they immediately pick up the name the Lads, and this goes on until the team stops. Now, why are they called the Lads? Because pretty much the team is entirely made up of English soccer players, like people born in England.
Lovely.
Come over to the USA, make a little bit more money because they were all like tier 3 in England.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So they're that's like championship 1, I think it's called. No, 2, I think it's called nowadays.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it's like championship 2 for anybody that knows anything. I know none of the teams in championship 2 nowadays. But I'm sure that they were not the same teams as were in the 1970s.
No. Keep talking. I'm going to see if any notable names are in the championship 2 right now.
Now, I don't know if this was a downgrade for the players, but lucky for me, one of the players, they had their 50-year anniversary this weekend, the Sounders did. Even though they're not the same team, they decided they can do that. And they inducted the original squad into the Eternal Sounders Circle of Legends, which is awesome. And I heard from one of the players, because he got to have a little interview, which is great. They did not have a
Also,
locker
we
room.
were wrong. It's called League One. I
League
should
One.
know this. My bad.
League One. Sorry. It's called League One. Okay. So whatever teams were in League One back then. Actually, I don't think it would have been League One back then. I think they would have been League Two, because didn't the Premier League come in like the 90s?
Something like that. I don't actually know. If anyone is curious, the team that people may have heard of the most is Edinburgh City.
Edinburgh City. Okay.
And they are dead last.
Ooh. They're going down. Okay.
I mean, their goal
Season's
difference
over.
is
Season's
negative
over, right?
60.
Ooh,
believe
negative
so.
60?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Time to
It's
sell
impressive
the
to
team.
be that bad.
Time to sell
It's
the
impressive
team.
to be that bad.
Yeah.
So,
We're just
anyway.
completely off the rails. This train is having a hard time leaving the station.
You keep giving me interesting things to talk about.
It's great. It's great. Okay. So this may have been a downgrade or an upgrade for the players. I don't know. There was no dressing room in Memorial Stadium where they played. This is in Seattle Center.
Okay.
If you don't know, if you're not from the area, it's underneath the Space Needle pretty much. So like if you're playing and you're standing on the field, you can look straight up and see the Space Needle. Okay. So there was no like dressing room. They literally just changed in like the same bathroom fans would use, like to get ready for the game. They're like,
fantastic.
Cool. They also did not have any training facilities, so Memorial Stadium was their training facility the first year. Actually, I think for all of the years, because they started playing in the Kingdome later in this season, and then tying into your story, the Kingdome got built because of that. So they would just train by like, playing soccer there, and then like their workout equipment was just the stairs of Memorial Stadium. That was it. Like no
Their
like
cardio was
lifting
going to be
equipment.
fantastic.
Yeah, all cardio.
You could never say that a team outran them.
Well, I don't know. Maybe all of the teams in the league's training facilities were just the stairs of the stadium they played at. I didn't go through every team. Okay, so they play their first game, and in what I'm going to consider after hearing your story, just a big whiff and an error, they decided to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Can you guess what happened with the fan base when they sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"?
They didn't sing?
Just constant booing. They were so mad the pilots had left, they just booed the song. They're like, no, that belongs in baseball, and we don't have baseball. Boo, stop, what are you doing?
That sounds like Seattle. That sounds like Seattle. Yeah.
I want baseball back. I'm going to boo the soccer team for singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." For context, this is not sung in U.S. soccer anymore.
For context, I'm surprised that it's still around in baseball.
Yeah. It can get.
Anyway,
I feel like some switching it up would be nice. Yeah, this was also after they all had to like there was so many walk-up fans of the stadium because they like didn't think anybody was gonna show up because nobody like this was back before like there were season ticket holders, but like you didn't buy your tickets over the like online. Maybe you bought them over the phone. I don't know. Probably not because no credit cards. So you had to like go to the window, buy your tickets, and then you'd come back for the game. Well, you can also just buy them the day of, which is probably a little easier from out of town, or it's a far ways to get over to the stadium or the ticket window, wherever that is. They had to delay the game because there were so many fans like waiting to get into the stadium because they just did not expect the crowd. So they all wait. Take Me Out the Ball Game starts getting sung, and they're just like, nope, I'm gonna boo you. So waiting in line to boo.
Fantastic. I love it.
Other than that, great first season. Everybody was super happy to have the team. Things were going great.
They were just happy that they got a team again for
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Now, we're going to talk about first, before we get to the real story here, what caused the end of the first Sounders, right? What
Okay.
happened? What happened in '83 to kill the Sounders? So the head coach for the last 4 years at this point has been Alan Hinton. Alan Hinton in the last he's coached for 4 years, but in the last 3 of those years, he's won 2 division titles and 2 international cups. So he's playing other teams from other countries and winning games. He's doing great. Like, he had a little bit of a downturn in the '82 season in terms of ticket sales, but that happens year to year, especially if that was the bad year. Now, in January of '83, a guy named Bruce Anderson decides to buy the Sounders. I don't know the reason for selling it. I could not find it. Bruce Anderson decides to buy the Sounders. His very first action is he has a presser the next day. And his very first action is to say, "Goodbye, Alan Hinton. I am firing you." Alan Hinton's wife runs out of the presser crying because they just lost their job and they have no clue what's going on because they were not told he was about to get fired. Alan Hinton wasn't even there because he didn't know he needed to be there. So he's getting fired while he's out like fishing or something. I don't know.
He's just on a grocery run.
He's just getting groceries. Maybe he's actually at the facility trying to figure out how he's gonna make his teammates run the stairs or his players run the stairs more. I don't know.
No. See, he's scheming on the stairs, right? And he's just like, okay, but if I make them run up 3 and then go down 2 and then run up 4 and then go down 1, like, it's gonna be totally different because that man has the stairs down.
Stairs down. Yes. Maybe like red light, green light, but with stairs. And when it's a red light, you have to like run backwards, and it's green light, you got to run forwards, and then it's just random.
That's slightly dangerous in terms of running backwards downstairs, ladies
okay,
and
maybe
gentlemen.
Like
don't run
turn
backwards
around
downstairs.
And run. It's not advice. Don't walk downstairs backwards either.
It's not fun.
Use stairs as they're meant to be used, please.
I mean, I have walked downstairs before backwards, but like it's not fun.
Doesn't sound fun. It sounds difficult.
Well, like we were moving like a couch.
Oh, I would probably walk downstairs backwards in that case then.
But like also, when you do that, you are extremely slow.
Yes. Don't be running.
Not running. Anyway, so the poor man got fired while he's scheming on stairs buying some milk.
Right. And the media, rightfully so, was like, "What the heck, man? Like, what are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I want to Americanize soccer in Seattle." And they're like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And he says, "I want more emotion from our players. I want to see the soccer equivalent of a slam dunk." And everyone's like, "Okay, what's the soccer equivalent of that? Like, there's not really a thing that we've heard of for that." And he says, "Well, the long ball. I don't want all this passing. I want the long ball." For anybody who doesn't know, that's not really the best strategy. It worked a bit in the mid '80s, so about the time this is happening. For the English national team, not for the bunch of players that are not that quality. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know a lot about the sport, I'm going to break it down to you. You're probably going to win more if you pass well.
Yes.
Keyword here is probably.
It's also easier to pass well when the ball is shorter than when it's longer. So if you're not the best at long balls, maybe play short balls. Yeah.
This is how we won in intramurals in college.
Right. It's how
And they had me run faster than everybody else down the pitch.
That helps a lot. Now, he also went on to say, I want the Sounders to score more goals. And people thought, what? You scored the second most goals in the league last year. Like, you're not scoring goals. And he says, yes, but I'd rather lose by 5-4 than win by a lower score.
I'm seeing why he lost the team.
Okay, so you're getting the vibe here of why he's not working.
Please tell me that the shenanigans that happen have to deal with him.
No, because the shenanigans happened before. I'm making you have heart and soul for this Alan Hinton, the previous coach, the coach that gets fired.
All right, what's going on with Alan Hinton?
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so Hinton, what a great guy. Him and the players during his tenure there like to go out, get some beers, and talk to the reporters before and after the matches. They do not care. They're just
fantastic
at the pub, because they're all British too. At the pub with their mates, the reporters, drinking beer, talking about the matches, telling them about soccer because the reporters know nothing about soccer. Now,
you know what? I appreciate that though. They're willing to talk to the reporters. They're just like, hey. And they're willing to help the reporters understand the game better.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
They're not mad at the reporters. They're just like, look, if we've also got to educate you, we are going to be drinking. We're going to do this in a pleasurable environment. We shall be having a pint while we explain to you how football is played. We are going to do this in a more pleasurable environment than the ringy-dingy steps. So please join us at the pub. What fascinates me about this is that they went before the match as well.
Oh, yeah, they're just whatever. They'd be like, we're going before the match. We'll tell you about what's going on. We'll tell you about how we're feeling about the team we're playing. We'll have some beer, and we'll get out on pitch and play.
It's like I can imagine it beforehand, right? It's like, okay, come to the pub an hour before the match. They're having a pint. It's just like, we'll say that one of the players' names is Jeremy. I don't know. It's like, Jeremy, what is your plan of attack? Well, you see, what we are going to do is we are going to see that left defenseman. He is actually injured based on a scouting report. So he is just coming back from an injury. We're just going to keep kicking the ball in his direction, and eventually we will wear him down. You're not worried that you're telling me this? No. Who are you going to tell? Have a pint, mate. Loosen up.
Loosen up. Listen to what I'm saying. Write it down and put it on the paper.
You won't put it in the paper until the match is played.
Print is very slow right now. What are you going to tweet it? If you're not tweeting anything, you're going to call the other team? I don't even think you know their number.
All right. So they're at the pub. They're having a lovely time, and they're fantastic people.
They're having a lovely time.
What else?
One of the reporters that they have drinks with at the pub decides to be at a know-it-all when he has no knowledge of soccer, because again, he's American, and at this time, Americans don't have knowledge of soccer, and so he'll be like, well, you should have done this last game, or you should have done that last game. Why are you guys not scoring more goals, even though you won by 12? I don't know, something like that, right? So the Sounders players decide, we're done with this guy, let's have some fun with him and see what happens. Luckily for the Sounders, there is a team that's now plays in the MLS called the Vancouver Whitecaps, and they play in Canada. Now, hopefully this is a little hint, but the during practice. They're about to have a game at night in Vancouver. They're practicing in the morning in Seattle at the Memorial Stadium. Or actually Kingdom at this point. They're practicing the Kingdom. And they're getting ready to drive up. So one of the players, Hudson, named Alex Hudson, he played all 4 years under the coach. So I was not entirely able to nail down the year, but I think it was 1980 that this happened.
Sure.
They were he calls over the reporter to have a little private chat in the locker room, while the other players go out into the parking lot and begin to drive north. Now, I'm not going to say if the players did anything. This is hearsay. Later, the reporter has to drive up. He drives up after. He gets stopped at the Canadian border because there was an anonymous tip.
Did they just leave one of their players behind?
No. I think they were all driving independently back then. Like, I don't think there was like a big bus. I think they were driving they were carpooling.
He just cut like a slightly later carpool.
Right, yeah. Either he was the carpool driver for some of his teammates or something. Yeah, Hudson, he made it to the game. He's there. He did not get
sure.
Okay. Yeah. So, but the reporter has to drive himself. He's on his own. He's in his own car.
Right.
He's driving up. Yeah. But he gets to the Canadian border and he gets immediately stopped by Border Patrol as soon as they find out his name. They pull him aside because they had received an anonymous tip that they should check his vehicle. This is interesting. So the Canadian Border Patrol goes ahead and they open up his car, the hood of his car, and they find dozens of small plastic bags containing a white powder.
Oh no.
So now this know-it-all reporter is stuck at the Canadian border with dozens of bags full of white powder.
For ladies and gentlemen, if you are confused on the white powder, it's okay. Stay confused.
Stay confused. Yes. You're not allowed to bring white powder into Canada.
You're not allowed to have white powder in the United States.
No. So when they find it, they are obviously not happy. And the reporter, who does not know there was white powder, is obviously very frantic. So he's proclaiming his innocence, protesting it, calling literally every number he knows in order to help him get out of this situation at the border, by them saying, "Oh, he's a good guy. He does this. He doesn't take white powder into Canada." Finally, he is able, after a few hours, to convince the Border Patrol, and as well as they were able to verify it, I think with probably dogs or some sort of test, that it was not the white powder that they do not like. It was powdered sugar. They're okay with you having powdered sugar.
Seriously? They didn't test that it was powdered sugar earlier?
For like a few hours, I guess. I don't know why. It was... I don't know about the border state in the 1980s.
Why not, Eric? Why not?
Anyway, the reporter finds out he's been a victim of a prank. He gets to the game late. He's missed almost the entire game except the last minutes, and he's telling everybody on the field about this prank, and they're all silently laughing, not letting them know that they have made him miss the game because they're mad at him. Allegedly made him miss the game.
Allegedly. Right. This is fantastic.
This is a story about how the Seattle Sounders made a reporter almost get arrested.
This is the team I want to root for.
Yes.
You see it occasionally nowadays. People pull pranks, but it's not fun. They're all boring pranks.
Yeah. It's not
at
this
the end
good
of the
fun.
day. At the end of the day, no harm done. Right. And they didn't. If they did put the white powder there, they didn't put anything that would be incriminating.
Right. It's not It's not the bad white powder. Nothing's gonna happen to the guy. He's just, as soon as they figure out it's not it, he'll be released.
He's just gonna be freaking out for a couple hours.
Exactly.
And it'll get fun.
He doesn't know it's not, so he can't be like, it's not. Because what if it is?
Right. All he can say is, I don't know.
I didn't know. Someone tampered with my vehicle. Yes.
Oh, this is fantastic.
I also like how they probably went out for beer with him after this.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like I feel like these were the type of players that would have pulled this prank, right? Had a good laugh about it, but then also like definitely they would have like bought him a few rounds of beer.
Oh yeah.
And just kind of been like, "Oh mate, we're so sorry you had to go through that. Here's a round on us." Like they would know that they're the reason he had to go through that, but they'd be like, "Oh no, I'm like, oh that sounds traumatic. Oh my goodness, like here, have a pint, like have a drink."
I hope the current Sounders go out for beers.
I'd like to think that they do. I don't know.
They should.
Now everyone's into like bodybuilding and weightlifting, and like it's not good for you.
Have 1 pint. 1 pint's not gonna kill you.
No. But, I don't know. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode where we just, had some fun, learned some history, learned about some hijinks, and I guess a prank that could have gone wrong, but in the end was harmless, all the none. Be sure to hit like, subscribe if you've gotten this far. Turn on that bell, get notifications. Helps us out a lot. Tell your friends about the show. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more silliness. We have something planned. I don't remember what it is, but you'll find out in 2 weeks. But if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do so on SATP Sports or at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE. And then if you would like to sign up for our Patreon, all the money goes directly back into the shows to make them better for you all. And that is at patreon.com/coopforge, and that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. Get access to all types of bonus content, including the notes that we took for the stories that we told today. But thank you all very much. Eric, thank you so much for joining, as always. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Bye.